Ready for a 3-day weekend? Thank you, Juneteenth. As to what Juneteenth is, a lot of folks are still understandably iffy on that because we are having a very insincere conversation nationally about race. And Juneteenth came about to make it a holiday, not so complex reasons, to get Trump, all right? It was a wedge issue, and that's too bad. It really is. But 3-day weekend, here it comes.
We have a cookbook first. Watermelon and Redbirds. It's a cookbook for Juneteenth and Black celebrations.
The start of Juneteenth celebrations kicking off across the Bay Area.
Bronx is honoring Juneteenth with a flag raising at Borough Hall.
Today's a special day because it's Juneteenth.
The Black Food and Wine Experience honors Juneteenth, the holiday that celebrates the end of slavery.
Soul of a Nation presents Sound of Freedom,
a Juneteenth celebration.
The event special premieres Friday at 8/7 Central on ABC.
I'm honestly not into it. Number one, I don't think we need a 3-day weekend. The federal employees don't. The federal government does. Not just 2 weeks before July 4th. A moment, July 4th, for everybody. Everybody's proud. It brings people together. But the Juneteenth conversation wasn't a real one. It was used as a political weapon to get Trump. It really was. Here's Joe, barely hanging on, announcing the Juneteenth holiday declaration.
And today, we consecrate Juneteenth for what it ought to be, what it must be, a national holiday.
Of course it must be. Joe Biden's been passionate about Juneteenth since he got to office all the way back in 1972, right? No. As a matter of fact, he never mentioned Juneteenth, okay, for 48 years. Never crossed his mind, never knew anything about it. He still doesn't seem to know exactly what it is.
He's going down at Texas on Juneteenth, right? The first major massacre, literally speaking, of the Black Wall Street, right? Years ago.
Wrong. That's not true, Joe. Still struggling after all these years. What is Juneteenth for real?
On June 19th, 1865, a Union general and some 2,000 troops arrived in Galveston Bay, Texas, to tell more than 250,000 freed black people that they no longer had to live enslaved.
Oh, freedom.
Wow. Significant. All the way back, of course, in the 1800s. Why did it become an issue, though, all of a sudden? Why so much urgency? It was to get Trump. Remember during COVID, and he was aching to get back on the campaign trail, and he had an event scheduled for June 19th, and all hell broke loose. How could he have it on June 19th? What a racist! Because everybody knows what Juneteenth is. At the time, no one knew, but it was just a way to get Trump. And, well, that's why we have Juneteenth, by the way. His enemies can be happy. This is what they said at the time.
Trump is so oblivious, he didn't even realize how messed up it would be to have a rally on Juneteenth.
Listen, Brother Trump, I'm born in Tulsa, so I don't want to get started with Tulsa now.
Donald Trump originally planned his first rally on Juneteenth, just right by the site of one of the worst racist slaughters in American history.
Yeah, these were not top of mind. They were used, though, as an issue to get Trump once again, to make him appear as a racist. And I do believe he is the least racist person you'll meet. But it was Trump, so you could do anything, say anything, and you could lie like crazy. And boy, did they. Take a look at this from Michael Bender in his book. And we caught him in a big fat lie. Again, number one. He writes, and it was serialized in Politico way back, Trump's response was also impaired by his stunning disregard for history, particularly compared to most other modern presidents. Remember that part, other modern presidents. 2 days after announcing his rally, Trump turned to a Secret Service agent who was black and asked him about Juneteenth. Yes, the agent told Trump, I know what it is, and it's very offensive to me that you're having this rally on Juneteenth. Now, the moment I read that, I knew that was not true. I know the White House. I know the Secret Service. No agent said to Donald Trump that he was being disrespectful, that it was offensive to him. And again, in 2020, people were hazy on what Juneteenth was. It's true. Next, according to the reporting, the backlash shocked Trump. He started quizzing everyone around him. Do you know what it is? Trump would ask. So this is based on a 2020 interview that made its way into a book. We found that 2020 interview. There's no reference to any of this. None. They made it up. The reporters do that. Here's the actual transcript from the interview itself. Donald Trump brings up Juneteenth. Mr. Trump, I did something good. I made it famous. I made Juneteenth very famous. It's actually an important event. It's an important time, but nobody had heard of it. Largely true. Next, please. Very few people have heard of it. Actually, a young African-American Secret Service agent knew what it was. I had political people who had no idea. Now, that's the transcript. There's no reference to this Secret Service agent telling the President of the United States it's offensive that you're doing it. But that's what they do. They lie. All right, so now it's famous. Now it's famous. It wasn't famous. What did he say? Modern political presidents, Donald Trump's stunning lack of awareness. What did Barack Obama do for Juneteenth? We looked it up. Nothing. Take a look. This is Juneteenth, 2009. Time for him to tell jokes.
I want to express my appreciation for the opportunity to tell jokes that weren't funny enough for me to use when we did this 5 weeks ago. Whatever.
Wow, he can tell jokes on Juneteenth, but President Trump can't have a political rally. How about that? What happened in 2013?
As I've said, Angela and I don't exactly look like previous German and American leaders.
Wow. Again, cracking jokes. He has no respect for African-American history. I'm sorry. And it continues like this in 2016.
At the White House, he had the old Bulls theme song, and it set a very high bar, as if I was Michael Jordan coming out.
Wow, 2015, cracking jokes on Juneteenth, that solemn day. So offensive, isn't it? Of course not. You know what would be great? Martin Luther King. More discussion about Martin Luther King. You know, we actually did have a national conversation, a long one, a controversial one about making MLK Day a national holiday. I'm glad it is, actually. Judging people by the content of their character, not the color of their skin. How quaint, quite frankly. You notice the liberals, they actually roll their eyes at Dr. King and his legacy today. How sad. All right. Hey, I got a question. Do you think Nancy Pelosi knows what Juneteenth is?
With all of the constraints that COVID has placed. Look, we have the war in Iraq, we have COVID.
Yeah, war in Iraq. You know, it'd be one thing if she were just some kooky congresswoman, but she's second in line to be president of the United States. If anything happens, she could be president of the United States very easily. And of course, first in line is Kamala Harris. We could play hours of her being weird. You've seen it all before. She is vice president of the United States. Wow, just one spot ahead of Kamala Harris. And of course, Joe Biden is president. And all right, just a little moment from this week.
I don't want to hear any more of these lies about reckless spending. We're changing people's lives.
He's the president of the United States. And so the three of these folks, right? I mean, our country is, 330 million people. These are the top dogs right now. And they come up with the craziest things. This digital governance board, remember that? This was an attempt to further silence conservatives. A lot of folks were really, really disturbed by this. So they had to give it up. But they're back. They're back with something different. Now, Mayorkas was the front of this. Remember this crazy guy? So they're trying a new tact. They gave it a new name, the Task Force to Fight Online Harassment. And they have a new front person, at least a promoter, a great tennis player by the name of Sloane Stevens. Okay, I mean, this is definitely more attractive, more appealing than that creepy Mayorkas. But she came out and she said some things that, quite frankly, are wrong and potentially dangerous. Take a look.
Out of sheer survival, I've spent my career trying to desensitize myself on how unacceptable this is, escalating to authorities when credible, and constantly in therapy to process.
Okay, she's complaining about being bullied online. I mean, I'm sorry it happens to her. It happens to a lot of people. But constantly in therapy, I don't know. There are already laws against threatening anybody. You can call the cops right away. The way they're going here, though, seems to be censorship. Another attempt to censor what people are talking about on the internet. They can couch it behind this pretty sports figure.
But then I thought about all the people out there who don't have a team filtering their messages or a direct line to law enforcement or access to mental health services. What about them? What about the young boys and girls and people of color, or anyone that's terrified that they will be harmed or are driven to harm themselves? I'm here today for them.
Look, everybody in America has a direct line to law enforcement, 911. And given what's happened over the past 2 years, we don't know exactly how long it'll take them to respond in certain circumstances. But I don't like this thing. Again, it sounds good, but they're setting up potentially censorship, and we know that's what they want to do. Kamala hiding behind, again, the LGBTQ and communities of color.
1 in 3 women under the age of 35 report being sexually harassed online. Over half of the LGBTQ plus people in our country are survivors of severe harassment. Nearly 1 in 4 Asian Americans report being called an offensive name. Black people who have been harassed online in our country are 3 times more likely to be targeted, again, because of their race.
Look, I hate bigotry. We all do. But we also hate the government getting involved in this kind of thing, and they're going to be the arbiters. That digital governance board, it was just canceled. This is too close to that. I don't trust them, all right? You shouldn't either. And there are bigger and more important things to worry about than, I'm sorry, that tennis player getting nasty comments online. How about North Korea? How about Iran? How about ISIS? How about the world? This is serious stuff, okay? It feels we haven't had a major terrorist attack from overseas in this country in a long time. It could happen. It could happen. And our Department of Homeland Security guy, what is he spending his time on? Job preservation and giving Joe Biden talking points and using his talking points.
The greatest terrorism-related threat that we face in the homeland is the threat of domestic violent extremism. Individuals drawn to violence because of ideologies of hate or false narratives propagated on social media and other online platforms. And the most prominent threat is the threat of white supremacists.
That is not true. It's not true. And he went to Harlem to deliver that message. Iran, North Korea, the remnants of ISIS, these things are more important. Mayorkas, though. Mayorkas, he's no longer going to be the front man of our misinformation efforts. You got to have people like this. Sloane Stephens, all right? You got to make it kinder, gentler. You got to talk about women and LGBTQ. I don't trust them. I think they're going to try the same thing. And I said delivering talking points. The more I look at this situation in Idaho, they arrested all of these so-called white supremacists who are on their way, they say, to cause a disturbance at a pride gathering. But they did not cause a disturbance. They were thwarted before they got there. This is not the American way. You think about a crime, that's one thing. You have to start to execute it to get arrested. And I wonder if this may have been partially set up so Joe Biden, just the next day for a pride event, could say this.
Just look at what happened in Idaho last weekend. 31 white supremacists stopped just before they reached the Pride celebration, where they apparently planned to unleash violence on people gathering peacefully in a show of their pride. I'm grateful for the swift response of law enforcement, and they responded. They responded.
The FBI has been acting more and more political every single day. Could they have orchestrated some of this, something like this, or exacerbated it or exaggerated the threat to give Joe Biden a talking point? Crazier things have happened. Remember when the country went nuts about the attack on Jussie Smollett? Remember when that seemed real? Hey, they still tell us that this is real, that Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide. Yeah, sure.